Ladies and gentlemen, imagine a punishment so horrific, so drawn out that it became synonymous with ultimate agony. A method of execution designed not for a quick end, but for a prolonged public spectacle of pain, systematically breaking every bone in the condemned's body. It was known by many names: the execution wheel, the wheel of Catherine, or perhaps most chillingly, the breaking wheel for centuries. It stood as a brutal symbol of pre-modern justice, a stark reminder of state power and societal control. But how did such a barbaric device leave such a profound, lasting imprint on our history, our culture, and even our language? Join us as we uncover the grim story of the breaking wheel, its era, its victims, and how humanity eventually turned away from this instrument of terror. The breaking wheel didn't just appear overnight. It evolved from even more ancient practices. The historian Peter Sperenberg suggests its possible origins lie in the 6th century writings of Gregory of Tours, describing a criminal being placed in a deep track and a heavy wagon driven over him. This rudimentary act of being literally driven over was a symbolic precursor to the wheel's later, a more refined cruelty, a reenactment of an earlier, a more direct form of capital punishment. The execution itself was a meticulously choreographed public ritual, designed to serve as a powerful deterrent. The apparatus was typically a large spoked wooden wagon wheel, often reinforced with an iron rim, sometimes even modified with a rectangular iron blade, extending from the rim to increase its effectiveness. The condemned, their limbs stretched out along the spokes of the wheel, or over sturdy wooden beams, would be tied to this structure on a public scaffold. Then the executioner would begin using a large hammer or an iron bar to methodically break the victim's bones, a process repeated multiple times for each limb. The primary goal was agonizing mutilation, not a swift death with a number and sequence of blows, precisely specified by the court sentence. The method of the execution was often tailored to the severity of the crime. In the Holy Roman Empire, a chilling distinction was made. Less severe offenders were punished top-down, receiving a lethal first blow to the neck for a quicker death. But for more heinous criminals, the bottom-up method was employed, where the torture began with the legs and slowly progressed upwards, sometimes continuing for hours. After the breaking, the horror was far from over. The body of the condemned was often braided through the spokes of a new wheel, or tied to it and then erected on a mast or pole for public display. This served a function beyond mere exhibition. It had a profound sacred dimension. Similar to crucifixion, the belief at the time was that leaving the body to be consumed by carrion eaters would hinder the soul's transition from death to resurrection, thus functioning as a theological statement to annihilate the condemned's spiritual prospects in the afterlife. Despite this extreme brutality, there were rare moments of mercy within this savage ritual. In France, executioners were sometimes ordered to deliver fatal blows to the chest and abdomen known as coups de grâce, blows of mercy to end the victim's suffering. A special grace, the retentum, might even allow the condemned to be strangled. After the first few blows, or even before the breaking began, these acts of clemency reveal a complex moral landscape where the state possessed both the absolute power to inflict pain and the authority to grant a quicker, albeit still brutal, death. The breaking wheel was a central feature of justice systems across numerous European governments and was reserved for crimes deemed particularly heinous. Its use was widespread, with documented cases in France, the Holy Roman Empire encompassing what is now Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Romania, Russia, Greece, Spain, Portugal, and even in colonial New York. This was not an arbitrary punishment. It was often codified in legal frameworks, such as the Saxon Spiegel in the Holy Roman Empire, for severe crimes like murder and arson resulting in fatalities. It was also a form of mirror punishment, particularly for highwaymen and street thieves, where the very instrument of their crime, the wheel, became the tool of their execution, a public statement of the state's power to correct social transgressions. The crimes punishable by the wheel were consistently those that posed a severe threat to public order and the social fabric. Aggravated murder, especially when committed during another crime or against a family member, rape, treason, and robbery. The decision to inflict prolonged suffering through the bottom-up method was a powerful manifestation of social order, signaling to the public which acts were considered the most unforgivable. While the breaking wheel is uniquely tied to European history, it's worth noting that other brutal forms of execution existed globally, such as execution by elephant in the Indian subcontinent, where elephants were trained to trample criminals to death, sometimes by breaking his bones by degrees, as men are broken upon the wheel. It is important to distinguish these practices from the chakra, which refers to the traditional Indian spinning wheel, and not an execution device. These were distinct cultural and historical practices, each serving the specific political and social functions of its jurisdiction. The history of the breaking wheel is grimly illuminated by the stories of its most notorious victims. Their fates serve as powerful case studies of its application, and eventually the societal shifts that led to its decline. One of the most extreme examples is the execution of Peter Neers. In 1581, dubbed the apex of torture, this German serial killer was convicted, based on confessions extracted under torture, of an astonishing 544 murders, including the ritualistic killing of 24 fetuses. His punishment was designed to match the horror of his crimes. Over 3 days, Neers was subjected to extended torture, including having strips of flesh torn from his body, heated oil poured into his wounds. On the final day, he received 42 strikes with the wheel, before being dismembered by quartering. While still alive, accounts suggest he incredibly survived for 9 days on the wheel before he finally expired. A critical turning point came with the case of Jean Calas in 1762, which became the Enlightenment's catalyst. Calas, a Protestant merchant from Toulouse, was sentenced to death on the wheel for the alleged murder of his son, who was believed to be converting to Catholicism. The trial was marred by religious prejudice and a profound lack of evidence, a product of the deep-seated intolerance of the time. After his execution, the celebrated French philosopher, Voltaire, became aware of the injustice. He saw it not just as a singular injustice, but as a glaring example of religious fanaticism and judicial barbarity, and launched a relentless public campaign, publishing his Treaty on Tolerance in 1763, galvanizing intellectual and public opinion. Voltaire's efforts ultimately led to the overturning of the original verdict and Calas' posthumous exoneration in 1765. The Calas affair transformed the breaking wheel from an accepted method of justice into a symbol of an oppressive and outdated legal system, directly contributing to the Enlightenment's push for legal reform. Another notable execution was that of Matthias Klostermeier in Zebendung, known as the Bavarian Robin Hood, a German outlaw who was broken on the wheel. Klostermeier, a poacher and social rebel who led a gang of robbers, had captured the popular imagination. The state intended his execution as a stark warning against defying authority. However, the very brutality of his punishment may have had an unintended consequence. It cemented his status as a folk hero rather than a common criminal, contributing to the enduring legend of the Bavarian Heisel, whose mythical treasure and heroic deeds are still a part of regional folklore. This case illustrates the inherent ambiguity of public executions, which, while meant to enforce state power, could sometimes inadvertently create martyrs and legends among the common people. Other figures who met their end on the breaking wheel included Robert Weir, 1603, Scotland, for murder; Georgie Dotze, 1514, Kingdom of Hungary, for leading a peasant revolt; and Louis-Dominique Bourguignon, 721, France, for robbery. The breaking wheel's eventual decline was not a sudden event, but a protracted process driven by a convergence of legal, social, and philosophical shifts. The Enlightenment was a major force in this change, with thinkers like Cesare, Beccaria, and Voltaire challenging judicial torture and brutal capital punishment as tyrannical and ineffective. The Calas affair, by vividly demonstrating the wheel's role in religious injustice, powerfully galvanized this opposition. While the Enlightenment played a significant role, some historians suggest the decline of violent executions began even earlier, in the 17th century, predating the most prominent critiques of the 18th century. Enlightenment, regardless of the precise timeline, a clear region-by-region abolition of the practice emerged, as it came to be seen as a barbaric relic. The official abolition of the breaking wheel occurred in various states across Europe. Over decades in Bavaria, it was abolished in 1813, and the electorate of Hesse followed in 1836. Germany as a whole abolished it in 1827. Sweden officially ended its use in 1841. And finally, in Prussia, the breaking wheel was abolished in 1841, which also marks the year of the last known execution by the wheel. The abolition of the breaking wheel was a crucial step in the evolution of modern justice systems, marking a significant shift away from public spectacles of pain towards a more humane model of punishment. Today, the breaking wheel's physical form is gone, but its legacy persists. It lives on as a religious symbol, the Catherine wheel, after the saint whose miraculous intervention shattered her torture. Wheel, a type of firework, a coat of arms, and profoundly in our language. The French word roue, meaning a debauched person, originally meant broken on the wheel, a term popularized by Philip, Duke of Orleans, who used it to describe his morally corrupt companions in German. The expression sich geradet fühlen translates to feel wheeled, describing severe physical exhaustion and pain. The German verb reitbrechen, to break on the wheel, is also used metaphorically to describe speaking a language incorrectly, as with a strong foreign accent. In Finnish, the verb thylata, meaning to execute by the wheel, is now used to describe a forceful and violent critique or rejection. In Danish, radbreak refers almost exclusively to physical exhaustion and discomfort. Even in English, Alexander Pope's quote, "Who breaks a butterfly upon a wheel," serves as an idiom for applying a great deal of effort to achieve something minor or unimportant. These linguistic echoes are powerful testimonies to the wheel's profound psychological impact, preserving its imagery Long after its brutal reality faded from public life, the breaking wheel stands as a potent symbol of a past era, a time when public punishment was a theatrical display of state power and an unforgettable moral lesson. Its history is a complex tapestry woven with threads of jurisprudence, religion, and social control. Its abolition was a crucial turning point, moving justice systems away from spectacles of pain. If you found this chilling journey through one of history's most brutal punishments compelling, then join us next time as we delve deeper into the forgotten methods and hidden stories of the past. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next historical exploration.